is Courtland Long, and I'm joined here in the studio today by my friend and colleague from Healthy h360, Dave Duplay. How are you, Dave?
Courtland, I'm doing great.
Oh, did you have a nice weekend?
I did, and this weather that we're having in Florida right now, we're down here for a couple of conferences, as you know.
Yes.
We're here for the Lewy Body Dementia Conference, and then also for the American Society of Hematology.
Yeah.
Two great conferences. We're very honored to be here. We're doing some video work, talking to patients and caregivers and advocates, and the weather has just been cooperating really nice. We left the cold of New York, and we're here in the 70s and low 80-degree weather in Florida, so it doesn't get much better than this.
Well, you know, we're getting some really great content, especially about Lewy body dementia for our community members, so I'm really excited to get that back to them.
Yeah, I am too, and we'll be posting these videos shortly after we get back, so, you know, stay tuned, log into healthyh360.com and see all the events that we captured on video.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, well, we've got a great show, Courtland, today. A very special guest is coming in. We have Connie Marois coming. And, you know, she's got a very interesting story, and one that we hear quite often. She had a brain tumor. She is a survivor, and really went on a real significant journey, and she talks openly about it. She's an advocate for not only herself, but for others going through the journey. So I really can't wait to get her in here and talk to her about that journey and, you know, all the things that she went through.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that conversation as well. But before we have Connie in the studio, as usual, we have some health tips to go over with our audience members. And these health tips are very well timed. They're about the holiday season as we come to the close of 2015 and start looking to new beginnings of 2016. I think these tips are going to be very helpful to our members.
Yeah, I think so. Does it seem like the years are going by extremely fast?
Oh, this flew by.
2015, it's almost over.
I know, I have no idea where it went.
Right, we're into December. We have a month left. And this tip, you know, we want to talk about, it's all about New Year's resolution, right? And, you know, we recently had Susan Weiner in, and she's the author of a great book, Diabetes 365 Tips for Living Well. And the essence of her book is really incredible because all the things that she talks about and the tips are doable, they're digestible. You know, you don't have to put a lot of thought into them. They're right to the point, easy to understand, but they're executable. And so I think when we talk about New Year's resolution, we could learn a lot from simply looking at her book and thinking about New Year's resolutions for ourselves.
Well, you saying that these tips being executable totally leads me into our first tip for New Year's resolutions, and that is to be realistic and plan ahead. You definitely need to make sure that your goals are attainable because then you're going to feel better, you know, about being able to reach those goals. And so when I say be realistic, you know, my New Year's resolutions are usually, oh, I'm going to work out a little bit more. But when you say be realistic, that means plan out, I'm going to work out at least 3 days a week, and put those workout sessions in your calendar.
Absolutely. You know, we both have smartphones, so there's no reason not to capture that. Even if you have a paper calendar, put them in. But Courtland, your comment about planning ahead is so important. You don't want to find yourself on December 31st sitting there thinking to yourself as the ball is dropping, geez, I wonder what my New Year's resolution is going to be. You don't want to be in that boat. So start thinking about it now. There's always things we can do to better ourselves. You know, I'm going to work on my guitar playing a little bit next year, a little more. You know, I've just kind of put that aside for a while. I'm going to pick that back up. And of course, you know, health plays a big, since we are healthy, you know, I have to have some component of health in my New Year's resolution. So that was a great tip. The second tip is to outline your plan. And Courtland, we talk about this all the time, right? And you hit on it a little bit. Outline the plan. You know, let's really, it's got to be actionable. And if your goal is to, let's say, for example, lose 20 pounds, don't expect you're going to lose 20 pounds in, you know, by January 31st.
Right, attainable.
Attainable goals, right? So, but the idea here is to outline a plan to achieve those goals, and I think that's critically important. It's going to keep you on track, keep you focused, and you're going to see small steps in the progress, and you're going to feel good about yourself.
And also, outlining your plan is going to help you strategize ways of dealing with temptations or things that are going to throw you off the course of meeting your goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So my outline of my plan on my guitar is I'm going to learn how to play the song Tom Dooley, one that you know very well. And when I get that down, I'm going to bring it here live on H360 Live, and I'm going to play it for everyone at home.
Dave, if you can play Hang Down Your Head, Tom Dooley, I'll sing along.
You folks better be ready for this. Remember, hashtag real stories if you like these health tips. Courtland, I think we have one more.
Oh, yeah. So tip number 3 is to talk about it. Be sure that you're talking about these goals with your friends and family who are going to act as a support system for you.
Would you sing maybe 1 or 2 lines now?
No, you haven't learned the song, so it's not happening yet.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, talk to your friends about it. And this is something else we've talked about in the past. If your goal is to lose weight, if your goal is to get into the gym, find a gym buddy, right? Find somebody that's going to help you, that's going to motivate you, that's going to push you, and somebody that you can talk to. Because let's face it, sometimes we set goals and we hit some plateaus.
Yes.
And we need that friend, that buddy there to help us get through those plateaus, power through it, and stay focused on the end goal. So that's a really great tip to talk about, and I agree fully. Well, Courtland, every week we send our interns out into the field to, talk to New Yorkers, and I can't wait to watch this video because, New Yorkers are very opinionated, and I'm sure we're going to hear some really awesome New Year's resolutions and how our New York friends are going to stay on track. Do you want to watch the video?
I would love to.
Okay, Greg, would you please roll it for us?
Do you or any of your friends commit to a New Year's resolution?
I think everyone tries to. But you get to about halfway through the year and quite often they fall by the wayside.
I think yes. A couple of them did, yeah.
No, not that I'm aware of.
You do it for about a month or two, and then it gets less and less and throughout the year, and then you're like, I should come up with a new New Year's resolution or a half New Year's resolution.
What would you say are some common New Year's resolutions that people make every year?
I think the first one is to lose weight, as you said. The second, maybe traveling, I hope. Traveling. And also I think they're thinking about it to find a new job. And maybe I think that what the most common is to find their love.
Usually smoking and working out. Yeah. Quitting not smoking. Quitting smoking and working out more are the two I hear most.
Dieting, maybe I need to stress less and get out more.
I think a lot of people want to do a bit more good, a bit more for charity.
Do you see a lot of people committing to their New Year's resolution all the way through?
No. I don't know that I've ever known a person who made a New Year's resolution who actually followed through with it. Usually, because I work out routinely, and I've noticed at my gym that there's usually like a population explosion the first couple weeks in January.
I can't say I've ever checked in on anybody the whole year through. I know, people quitting smoking that have done it, and they've been trying for a long time or whatever, and then they finally, maybe they tried it the year before, and then finally it's just like, all right, and they made it happen. So I guess I have seen it once with somebody quitting smoking, which is really good, so yeah.
I think it's very impressive if people do. It's really good when people can stick to them.
Yes, a couple times I did.
So what is your New Year's resolution for 2016?
What is it, December 8th today, right?
No, the 7th.
Is it the 7th? Okay. I don't even know if I haven't really even made one yet. I think I'll probably make one up. Not make one up, but I'm going to say just to be a better listener.
My New Year's resolution this year is to do a lot more running, get back into being a lot healthier. My last year has not been particularly healthy.
I think my New Year resolution is going to be I really want to visit California. I really want to visit San Francisco, and also I have some plans about a new job. I want to buy a new camera, and I want to visit the photography courses this year, and I hope I can do this.
I don't make New Year's resolutions. I don't think I ever really have. I usually, when I feel like I need to make a change in my life, I just do it. I quit smoking 9 years ago, and I did it. It was on a random Wednesday in October.
Courtland, what did you think?
Oh, it was a great video. You know, our New Yorkers never disappoint. They had some really awesome insights, and it makes me think, for my New Year's resolution, I think I want to try to cook at home at least 3 nights a week.
Really?
Yeah.
That is a good New Year's resolution. Now, I'm hoping that occasionally the office will be the beneficiary of some of that cooking because, you know, if you have leftovers, you know, it's called Tupperware.
Right.
You just package it up, bring it into the office, and we will let you know how you're doing.
Well, be careful what you wish for, Dave. You don't know if my cooking is good or bad.
Well, you know, New Yorkers are opinionated, and
Yes.
I'm not going to be very shy to tell you what I think.
All right, well,
But
I think you'll be all right with
But
it.
I'm sure it's going to be good. You know, one of the things I wish we could do is I wish we could have gotten those folks' email addresses so we could follow up in a couple of months to see how are they getting along with these New Year's resolutions. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the Healthy h360 health plan.
Yeah, the 360 follow-up,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, great videos. Our interns did a phenomenal job, and the New Yorkers that we interviewed didn't disappoint, as always. Well, Courtland, now's our favorite time of the show. Connie's making her way into the studio. But before we get into the Q&A with her, I've got some statistics that I want to talk about because these numbers are really staggering to me, and we've got to work together to do something about them. So here they go. Brain tumors are the leading cause of cancer-related deaths in children, males and females under the age of 20. Leukemia is the first cause. The second leading cause of cancer-related deaths in males, ages 20 to 39. It's the fifth leading cause of cancer-related deaths in females, ages 20 to 39. And there are currently, or nearly, 700,000 people in the U.S. living with a brain tumor. That is a big number. It's shocking to me. And unfortunately, here's a very sad number. It's a big number as well. This year, nearly 14,000 people will lose their battle with a brain tumor. So we have to do something about this. Connie, I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
You have been on quite a journey. Now, we met you at the American Brain Tumor Association's 5K run.
Yes.
And got to know a little bit about you. That was a great day, wasn't it?
It was a beautiful day. The weather was fantastic. So.
The weather was great, and there were so many people out walking and
Yes.
supporting the cause, and it's really, really great. I'm going to ask you the first question here, and it has to do with the association. You know, I'm just curious, you know, how did you get involved with them? There's, you know, a lot of ways you could have given back after your journey, but how did you hook up with these folks?
Yeah, I was, you know, always looking for a voice. It's been 6 years since I've been a survivor now. And actually last year I had just randomly Googled a search of run, walk, and New York and brain tumors and stumbled upon the American Brain Tumor Association. And I could not be happier to be involved. They've been doing it throughout other states, Chicago and Philadelphia and so forth, but in New York only 3 years. So this year we had a fantastic turnout. And obviously I stand for the cause on top of it, but you know, a lot of the people that get involved, it's just a great association and good energy. And I was a part of the committee this year as well, which was fantastic.
A lot of great energy. They've been on our show, as you know,
Yes.
and they really are doing some fantastic things there. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And it's about, you know, finding a voice and letting people aware, like you said, those stats are pretty phenomenal to even hear those things. And what they do as a part of their website as well is they educate and teach, which, like me being diagnosed, it's good to know what, you know, to do next type of thing. So the next step.
Well, Connie, can you walk us down your journey a little bit to starting, you know, just with your symptoms? What were you experiencing in the beginning?
Great question. So my situation is very interesting. The year was 2009, and I had personally just given birth to a little child. So shortly after birth, I was having head pains. The best way to describe them is sharp shooting pains on each side of my temples. And these weren't your normal headaches. They were just severe pressure pains. And not really understanding what this was, I went to my general practitioner and I was told, you know, because I had just given birth and had an epidural and hormonal changes, this is, you know, quite common thereafter. A month into it, I had gone to another doctor. I went to an eye doctor just to see if my vision was okay and everything was okay. Shortly after, I went to neurologists also to look at the symptoms, and they do their standard procedure of, walk in a straight line, touch your finger to your nose. I had no issues with that. So after the pains continuing for about 2.5 months, I went back to my general practitioner, and of course she said, at this point, let's sign you up for an MRI. But
Wow.
not thinking that we really had to do it. This was something that she just said, let's sign you up for it. I'm sure everything's okay, but let's just double confirm type of thing.
Yeah.
We hear this all the time, and it really is amazing. And I think, we got to know you a little bit before the show when you came in, and, you were so spot on that you have to be your own advocate.
Yes.
And, nobody knows your body better than yourself.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And so what's amazing is it seems to me like there was no diagnosis. Prior to the MRI, people were, these physicians were just saying to you, well, it's just change. You've
Correct.
just had a baby. These things are common, and nobody was really listening to your story and what you were experiencing. So is that fair to say that there was
to
no
your
diagnosis?
point, I think the biggest thing, being young in my 30s, not even thinking that something like this could happen to me, is being your own advocate and reading your own body, because truly, I knew something was wrong, and I knew if I didn't push hard enough, I wasn't going to get the answers to what I needed. And it's scary because a brain tumor is usually not announced until it gets to the point where it has to be announced. So,
Right.
Yeah.
It was, like I said, shortly after giving birth and being a new mom. But I think that you are so well said in what you said, because that is the biggest thing. Is, if anything I can take away, is if you truly believe something's wrong, in your body and you're feeling something abnormal, your body best, so it's good to announce it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Well, in talking about your diagnosis, you're going through 2.5 months. You don't know what's wrong, but you feel it.
Yeah.
So what went through your mind when you did get the diagnosis, when they said, hey, we figured it out?
That's actually a valid point. I mean, I too knew something was internally wrong, but if you could have asked me, 1,000 times what I thought it was, I would never have thought of brain tumor. Just because I didn't look up symptoms of a brain tumor. But now looking back, I probably did have other symptoms that I was kind of unaware of. Double vision when I would wake up in the morning, look at the alarm clock. There was probably other things that were announced that I just pushed aside because I would have never thought. So I think, to answer your question, Bess, it was just, I was in complete shock.
Yeah.
I mean, our life was turned around up in an instant just with that diagnosis. We never thought we would. My husband is actually an investment banker, so at the time he was negotiating with the radiologist who had read that I got a call an hour after the MRI, not even from a professional neurologist, from the radiologist on site, saying you have to rush to the ER, you have a brain tumor. And I think he was trying to say, you're reading the wrong scan, and this can't be my wife, and one of those shocking moments.
Yeah.
Right.
Very surreal. Very surreal. Yeah.
So you get to the ER. Obviously, right? You say, look, your husband says we got to go. You say yes, and you get there, and what happens? Does somebody sit you down and talk to you about this diagnosis, and is the neurologist there at this point?
Correct. So it was an interesting time of year because it was right before Christmas. So not everybody was on staff. I was lucky enough to have Dr. Greenfield at New York Presbyterian, who happens to be a pediatric neurologist, which the kind of tumor I have is found mostly in children. But yeah, he basically sat us down. I think the biggest thing was to educate us. So he had the MRI screening, if you will, and pulled the CD up and said, this is what we're looking at here, and I want you to see what this is and try to understand it. And we have option kind of A and B, and this is how we approach it. And, he was very calm, which I needed at the time, but I think in anything, when people go through these things, it's plan of action. You don't really think about the repercussions. You just want to do the best you can to save your health and whatever that takes, So that's one thing. We just went into plan mode of whatever we needed to do together and make that decision.
So your family is back in Minnesota at the time that this is happening. So how did you talk to them about this?
Unfortunately, it was on the phone at first. And because I'm so close with my family, I mean, everybody jumped on planes and wherever they had any, come to be here and be a part of everything. But it was, and that's another thing, when family's away, it makes it even more difficult. I think the hardest thing for me was I was just taking care of a newborn baby. He was only 3 months at the time.
Right.
And going from being a mother and nurturing to all of a sudden having to put this child in other people's hands, it's very difficult too. So luckily we have a lot of loved ones and family and friends close by that were very helpful. So
yeah. So in talking about your treatment, you get this call from the radiologist and he says, rush to the ER right now. And you get there and then the neurologist is like, pump the brakes. We got to figure this out. We're going to talk about the treatment plan. So what was their plan and how did you kind of process that, having to slow down? Because I could imagine a lot of people would be like, no, we need to go right now.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. You know what happened, Courtland, is he actually gave me options. I had flights to go home to Minnesota to see my family for the holidays. And he's like, we don't have to operate right this second. You can go home, spend time like Christmas with your family. You can come back. And I looked at my husband and I said, now knowing this and seeing that it was essentially the size of a golf ball between the third and fourth ventricle of my brain, ependymonium was the tumor I had. After seeing that scan, it just immediately, I just wanted to have surgery right away.
Right.
So I think everyone deals with these things differently. I didn't know how I'd react personally, but I don't think I could sit on a plane knowing that all of this was going on. And in other words, we knew it was going to take surgery and operation, but it didn't have to be immediate if I wanted to wait a little bit, but I opted not to.
So you were diagnosed at stage 2. And so did the doctor have an explanation? I mean, this tumor type is something that appears in small children.
Correct, yeah.
And so did he have any explanation of how this could happen in your 30s?
I think in his theory, it was growing at such a slow rate. So all tumors grow at various rates.
Right.
Mine is a 1 to 2%, which is essentially very slow considering the growth period. And in knowing that, I probably started growing it when I was 13, 14.
Wow.
And I didn't announce myself until after giving birth. Now, I don't know what that means because of the epidural or hormonal changes happen in a woman's body, and I've heard this, with other friends with health issues, that your hormones change significantly. So I don't know if it was announced because of that or if my child is just a miracle and made it be announced. But the truth, it was probably growing at such a slow rate, and it got to the point where it got so enlarged, which was what the head pressure was, which was an increase of hydrocephalus. Yeah. So.
Wow.
And you had a couple surgeries to relieve that pressure. Is that correct?
Correct. And then I had a relapse about like 2 years ago with the hydrocephalus. So we're trying to avoid, I'm sure you've heard like where you can have a shunt to create the flow. Right. So we did it naturally where we created a passage, but in over like 3 years after my first surgery, it had closed up. So we had to go back in and create it again. And basically that's just the fluid within our brains. And that was probably what was leading to the head pressure as well.
Right.
Because you could see that in the first scan that there was, fluid up here and then the tumor was in the back.
So the surgeons were able to get 95% of the tumor.
Yes.
And the surgery. And then what about the 5%? How was that dealt with?
So the 5% remaining, we had opted for radiation. Given my age, we just want to stunt its growth in hopes that that would stunt its growth.
Right.
I think if I was in my 70s, it's probably not something that would have necessarily been needed, but because I was in my 30s, we had chosen to do that. And so far, it's been kept at bay, which is great. And then I'm always monitoring. So instead of, I recently have graduated to an annual MRI, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, of course, it starts every 3 months, and then we go to 6 months. And the past 2 years, it's just been yearly. So, and I just had one recently, and all the results are fantastic.
Oh, very good.
Great.
Yeah, it's exciting.
So did your doctors talk to you about any potential like lifestyle changes that would happen because of treatment or after?
Yeah, well, because, brain surgery is very scary. So, I mean, it's, when they're, when they're doing the surgery itself, I mean, they're testing your vitals and your nervous system and so forth. So I have things that I know that happened to me, like my right vocal cord is paralyzed. My vision is fine now, but if you spin me around in a circle 5 times, I'm very dizzy. I will not
Me
do
too.
the like
Me
tilt
too,
or
by the way. That's-
I will not be the mom that goes like Disney with their child, you know,
Yeah.
and runs on like the like Tilter World and stuff. But you know, in all hindsight, I mean, there's things that I know that are a little bit different. But when I talk to my neurologist, he's like, Connie, he's like, please do not complain. Like this could have been a much worse situation, you know. So
Yeah.
the aftermath wasn't as bad, and I was lucky for that. But I know that in this case scenario, it could not always be good because, you know, you're dealing with your brain, which
Right.
is a scary surgery.
Yeah, and it being so scary, I could imagine that there were probably some feelings of depression or social anxiety. How did you handle that?
Yeah, you know what? I have to be honest. I felt lucky. Like I felt that why me internally, but I also felt like this could have been so much worse. Like knowing these stories. And I think my son gave me the strength because after all this had surpassed, I had to turn around and be a mom to someone who needed me. So I think that was really part of my strong recovery as well. So
Yeah.
it really helped.
Amazing.
Now, your son was with you when you were emceeing at the BT
Yes,
5K.
he was. In
So-
fact, he was supposed to say something, but he chickened out at the
next
very
time.
end, which I can understand. It was front of 2,000 people,
Yeah.
so I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
how
he
did you
was
talk to him about this period of time when he was a little bit
Yeah,
older?
you know what? Now that he's 6 years old, he's starting to understand it more. Because he was so little, it's not that we kept it away from him, but I just don't think he could understand the dialogue of what it was. So he's very intrigued now, and he wants to like question it and have answers for it. And he's like reflects on it and says, "Mommy, remember when you were sick?" And you know, so he's aware of it now. But when he was so young at the time, But I do want him to be knowledgeable because it is part of my life and who I am, and you know, we all have to monitor our health and take care of ourselves. You know,
Yeah.
so I want him to be aware of that too.
So true. You know, speaking of questions and answers, we had a question that was emailed in for you. So William from Oklahoma City wants to know, did you experience a feeling of extreme headaches when you had your tumor? I think you answered that to some degree, but can you maybe expand a little bit more on what those headaches were like?
You know what? The best way I can describe it is almost abnormal. So we get migraines and we get, you know, head pressures, but this is like a sharp, almost like a shock to your brain. And it was on each side of the temple. And it was so severe that over time, actually, when my husband witnessed an episode which stirred the thing of go get an MRI, it was almost like a mini seizure at the time. So I remember holding my son and trying to take care of him, and then all of a sudden the sharp pain would come, and I would almost like drop him for a second, but these pains would last so short. And so it felt manageable, if that makes sense. You know, what I was finding is over time is they were getting more frequent. And when I say short, you know, like 2 seconds of a sharp pain, but then 2.5 months into this, I noticed more and more of them. So clearly something was not right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, William, thanks for that question. That's a very good one. I want to turn to a little bit to support. You mentioned that, you know, your family is very close, and you know they got on planes and came to be with you to support
Absolutely.
you. Did you go online? Did you try to seek out maybe a physical support group or an online support group when you were going through the journey?
You know what? I didn't as much as I probably should have.
And we weren't around then, so
You weren't around. I wish you were. That would have been fantastic. I think I am.
Shameless
didn't.
plug for myself, right?
Well, no, I think it's true, and I think that's the biggest thing is that when you go through something like this, it's not like I could talk to my best friend and they could relate. I mean, this is such a strange, surreal story that I only wish I had more like venues, you know, like your website and other things to really search and find out more about it. But I didn't at the time, so. It's like, it's interesting because I feel like now I'm reflecting a little bit more now, realizing that this is such a strong story and it needs to be heard.
It does need to be heard, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I know that the American Brain Tumor Association has a couple programs, you know, where they can put you in contact with someone who's like your same age, same life situation.
Correct.
Did you try to find any of
Yeah,
this?
in fact, I'm meeting with a woman tomorrow for
Oh,
lunch.
good.
So,
Yeah.
and she actually has a pandemonium brain tumor as well. Younger than I am, I believe. I don't really ask women their ages, but so I'm meeting with her tomorrow, and I think that's the biggest thing too, is like meeting with them, and because they feel like they have something they can relate to with me, which is very important. So taking the time to talk to other people that are going through the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm definitely doing that.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, you know, these numbers that I talked about at the beginning are really staggering. You know, when we were doing the research, getting ready to have you on the show, and we were looking at these numbers, and you really don't realize how big this is. I mean, you know, what needs to be done? I mean, obviously, I think, you know, the medical community listening a little bit better, right? And because again, you know your own body, but what, in your opinion, needs to be done to really shine the spotlight on this?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, right now there's currently, I think, 120 different type of brain tumors that are out there. And the number is only growing. I think the biggest thing is that, you know, research, you know, I mean, what they're trying to do now is do more research and catching these things earlier in advance. As I mentioned to you prior, this tumor probably existed within me, right? So it was probably growing at such a slow rate. But why did it take so many years to actually officially find it and be announced? Had I found it earlier, maybe it would have been a different situation. I wouldn't have gone through so much turmoil, you know? So I think early diagnosis, but it all comes down to just like even cancer situation, research, you know? They really have to like do more research, which they're trying to do. I mean, the scary part is it's your brain, you know? I mean, all diseases are scary, that's 100%, but when they tell you you're going to have a 6.5-hour surgery and you're essentially open, you know, I mean, that's scary in itself. So, but yeah, I think they're trying to do everything they can to find a cure and, you know, I think prevention, just like anything, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think the medical community has come such a long way in advanced technologies, right? I mean, you think back 30, 40, 50 years ago, somebody diagnosed with this, you know, the outcome would have been, you know, not so good.
Or chalk it up as an aneurysm and you're no longer here, you know? So you're so right. I mean, the fact that we have MRIs and machines that are able to see these things and get to the results is very important.
Yeah, and just the skill, you know, the new skills of the surgeon and all the robotics that, you know, you go into the operating room and it's a marvel. You know, it's more than just a scalpel and a few tools nowadays. It's robotics and it's sophisticated equipment and computers and really, so the precision medicine is really important to solving these and curing people and getting people like you to be survivors.
I know. My neurologist says, thank God I have a big head. He's like, you have a big, perfect head. Like he always said when he was operating that he could see everything so clearly, and he was thankful for that. So hopefully that helps.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, but we invite you back anytime.
Great.
And we will see you at the walk next year. We'll be there in full force, right,
Yes, we
Courtland?
will, yeah.
Courtland's in charge of scheduling all that for us, and she does a great job, so we'll see you there. So thanks again so much for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Perfect.
I'd like to thank the viewers for tuning in, and I'd like to thank our sponsors for making this all possible. Remember, all of our episodes can be viewed on demand at healthyo360.com, and our podcast is available in the iTunes store. Courtland, I think you have something important to say about social media?
Oh, yes. Well, we love social media, and we're all over Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. We use the hashtag #RealStories when posting, and we'd really appreciate it if you would do the same. On behalf of Dave Duplay, myself, and the entire Healthyo360 family, we'd like to thank you once again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again next week when we'll be talking with Dr. Del Signor about skull base surgery.